John Lydic, fresh off your trip to New Jersey. I mean, you pulled into our parking lot here at Erie News Now, what, an hour ago?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, John. Great coverage.
It was certainly a wonderful season. Of course, a little disappointing, the ending and how things played out.
Yeah, talk about that last night for the Erie Seawolves, again, taking on the Somerset Patriots in New Jersey. It just got off bad, and it just got worse. Yeah,
see, the problem that you run into here at the end of the season is there's so many of these pitchers that are on pitch limits at the end of the year, and their arms are just, shot. You get to this point of the year. But I will say, there's 4 future big leaguers that were in that lineup, including Jason Dominguez. He had 3 home runs. You'll see a couple of them here. It's just hard. I mean, he made the baseball fly with such ease. Mm-hmm. It was almost like Aaron Judge, and you're comparing it in the same organization. And it just seems like the Seawolves, the pitching staff, just kind of ran out. A lot of guys like Ty Madden, he's a straight fastball pitcher. These guys were just feasting off that last night, and that was how things kind of turned in the first inning.
And it wasn't their first no-hitter of the season for the Patriots, so they were kind of on a roll, and it just seemed like everything went their way, and everything just was not working for the Seawolves last night.
Yeah, everything, and I asked Gabe Alvarez about Game 2 because it was a similar situation. How do you get things? Is it just maybe a hit, just a play? And it seemed like, the Seawolves, they had an error 3 batters into the first inning, and then the home runs and the runs just started to pile up. They just couldn't find their footing. But, yeah, Randy Vasquez was electric last night. He was painting the corners, throughout the game. So it was just hard for the Seawolves to find any momentum.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, everything that happened before the last 2 games. Yeah. It was a fantastic season. They have so much to be proud of. The farthest the Seawolves have ever got.
Yeah, I mean, you think about this. You had single-season records for strikeouts by a team. Reese Olson set the strikeout mark as a pitcher. And then just the ability to hit the ball out of the ballpark. They weren't all the number 1 overall picks like we've had with Casey Mize, Spencer Torkelson more recently. But these guys just all year long seem to have the ability, and I asked Gabe about that last night. He said they just had a swagger and a bounce-back ability that was really resilient throughout the year.
And the Seawolves must be very pleased with those last few games at UPMC Park and the energy there. They must have felt it from the community.
You know what? I want to make this note to the fans of the Seawolves here in Erie. Last night, the last 2 games in Somerset, there was only about 20 to 30% of that stadium was filled.
Really?
And you'll hear coming up at 5 o'clock, I asked Gabe Alvarez what his message. He said just pure thankfulness for what the Seawolves fans were able to do in those final few games, because he said it's not like that at every ballpark. Their fans showed up in a big way, and he said they meant a lot, especially with the way the Towels showed up for that final game. That was an electric atmosphere.
Yeah. I was waving a toddler hoodie around last Saturday night. It was so fun.
Well, how were the Seawolves feeling as they headed out? I mean, obviously there's disappointment, but like Kara said, they have so much to be proud of, and I hope that they can reflect on that and get to that as well.
Well, I think the biggest thing when you look at this season is these guys are part of a development system, and so many of them, despite how things ended, of course they wanted to have a championship to celebrate last night, but so many of them took big steps. You look at one that's in the MVP race, in Quincy Naporti. He was released by the Philadelphia Phillies just over a year ago. He may be an MVP candidate and somebody that, if not the Tigers, an organization in Major League Baseball is going to take a look at for their first base position or designated hitter. So really, that's what you can hang your hat on. The memories of this season, the walk-off wins, great strikeouts, and just the development of these guys that we could see one day very soon in the big leagues.
So what's next year going to look like for the Seawolves?
Well, that's the big question. We've had a new manager, it seems like, every year for the Erie Seawolves. I asked Gabe Alvarez last night, and he said he'd love to be back at Erie. He said it was such a welcoming place to be a part of. He just was in college at University of Southern California about 18 months ago and making it all the way to the championship. He'd love to be back, but again, that's going to be a question. And then see how many of these guys return. I mean, Reese Olson's still very young, but has promise, so we'll see how many of these guys. But, with fluctuation of baseball, we may not see many of these faces ever again.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you did a great job covering it all this past season, John, and the past couple of days.
Yeah,
so
appreciate your
absolutely, and thank you for having us on the show. It was a pleasure to cover the season all night.
Yeah, and thanks for changing your clothes and coming on in and join us today.
Freshen up a little bit.
Yeah.